It's a song from the Reverend Gary Davis, who was a minister and street musician in Harlem. His blues guitar playing is still the standard for finger-picking blues. And he wrote this song, Let Us Get Together. Let us, altos, let us get together. Let us.
Let us get together right down here. 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 Let us do our living 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 right down here. Stand for one another 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 right down here. Let us get together right down here. Let us get together right down here. Let us get together right down here. Let us get together. Let us get together. Let us get together right down here.
Thank you all.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this annual community celebration of the life of Martin Luther King Jr., the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I just want to welcome you warmly on behalf of Centre Congregational Church. I'm Reverend Bert Marshall, the interim minister here. It's great to see all of you here. And this is a service that is planned every year and organized and backed and carried out and otherwise supported by the Brattleboro Area Interfaith Clergy Association. And I want to just draw your attention and make a few quick thank yous here as we do, and also to say that the restrooms are back that way, through that door, make a right, and on down the hallway. Thanks to Andy Davis for directing and organizing our choir. And we're hoping that Franz Robert will still make it, and if he does, he's going to play. Otherwise, we will cover that somehow. I hope he's okay. We'll extend our concern for his well-being. Thanks to the choir. Thanks to everyone who has helped in any way to lead Lisa Sparrow and the Guilford Community Church and First Congregational Church of West Brattleboro and the Brattleboro area Jewish community and the Episcopal, St. Michael's Episcopal, and I'm going to leave some people out, I know. But everyone who's involved, thank you. The offering today will be split between the Root Social Justice Center here in town and the Vermont Partnership for Fairness and Diversity. So please give generously as you are able today. Thank you for coming. Welcome on this unusually warm January day. And may each of you be richly blessed and also inspired and provoked and filled with spirit by being here. Thank you.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last."
come forward for Dream of Martin Luther King. The words to this song are in the bulletin. It's a song we've been singing in the Brattleboro and Windham County schools for many years. Please join in. It's really for all of us.
So wonderful to see you all. I'm Lisa Sparrow, the pastor of the Guilford Church. And every year we try to shake it up a little bit to not get stuck in our ways, which also means that every year there's a little shaky because we're on new ground. But isn't that the way change happens, isn't it there? So our idea this year is to highlight both people in our community, but also people in the civil rights movement whose names we may not necessarily have heard. We've made a particular attempt to choose of the many hidden heroes of the civil rights movement, to choose people from different faith traditions, so you'll hear that expressed. And we've also woven in the voices of young people from our community to help us learn about those things so that the message is passed on. So just to add to the complexity and keep you awake until the delicious spaghetti dinner downstairs, we're going to ask that you sing verses of We Shall Overcome as interludes between the different readings. And Bert, Andy's going to lead it. Okay. So we'll start out just practicing a song which we probably already know, and then you'll see that after each reading there's another verse, and there are 2 verses at the end. Thank you.
Hello. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel was born in Poland in 1907. He had a traditional Orthodox rabbinical training and then studied at the University of Berlin, where he received a liberal rabbinical ordination. Deported back to Poland by the Nazis in 1938, he was able to escape to the United States shortly before the German invasion. He served on the faculty of Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati and of Jewish Theological School in New York. Heschel became one of the leading Jewish theologians and Jewish philosophers of the 20th century. He was a professor of Jewish mysticism who authored a number of widely read books on Jewish thought. He believed that religion is a basic human impulse and that no religious community can claim a monopoly on truth. He was passionately involved in the American Civil Rights Movement. In a telegram to President John F. Kennedy, he wrote, "We forfeit the right to worship God as long as we continue to humiliate Negroes. The hour calls for moral grandeur and spiritual audacity." Heschel marched with Martin Luther King at Selma. Off that march, he famously said, "For many of us, the march from Selma to Montgomery was about protest and prayer. Legs are not lips, and walking is not kneeling, and yet our legs uttered song. Even without words, our march was worship. I felt my legs were praying." King described Heschel as truly great prophet. When King was assassinated, Heschel said, "God has sent him to us." Heschel died in 1972, but his legacy of spiritual passion and moral conscience lives on.
At the first conference on religion and race, the main participants were Pharaoh and Moses. Moses' words were, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go, that they may celebrate a feast to me." When Pharaoh retorted, "Who is the Lord, that I should heed this voice and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and moreover, I will not let Israel go." The outcome of that summit meeting has not come to an end. Pharaoh is not ready to capitulate. The Exodus began, but it is far from having been completed. In fact, it was easier for the children of Israel to cross the Red Sea than for a Negro to cross certain university campuses. Race, as a normative legal or political concept, is capable of expanding to formidable dimensions. A mere thought, it extends to become a way of thinking, a highway of insolence, as well as a standard of values, overriding truth, justice, beauty. As a standard of values and behavior, race operates as a comprehensive doctrine, as racism. And racism is worse than idolatry. Racism is Satanism, unmitigated evil. Few of us seem to realize how insidious, how radical, how universal an evil racism is. Few of us realize that racism is man's gravest threat to men. The maximum of hatred for a minimum of reason, the maximum of cruelty for a minimum of thinking. Perhaps this conference should have been called Religion or Race. You cannot worship God and at the same time look at man as if he were a horse. Shortly before he died, Moses spoke to his people. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day. I have put before you life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life. The aim of this conference is, first of all, to state clearly the stark alternative. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day. I have set before you religion and race, life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life.
And even fewer know anything about the man or what he accomplished in his life. He was truly an unsung hero of the civil rights movement. He was born in Westchester, Pennsylvania in 1912 and was raised in the Quaker pacifist faith by his maternal grandparents. He became a tireless advocate for racial equality, a peaceful international order, and an American democrat economic system. Rustin, more than anyone, brought the message and methods of Gandhi's nonviolence to the United States and to the civil rights movement. He began working with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1956 during the Montgomery bus boycott and convinced King to discontinue using armed guards and stop carrying a personal handgun, in keeping with the principles of nonviolence. He worked with Dr. King in many ways over the years and became one of Dr. King's closest advisors. Rustin was the chief organizer of the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his speech, "I Have a Dream." He was given fewer than 8 weeks to organize the march. Without the advantage of computers, cell phones, the internet, or even fax machines, their goal was to get 100,000 people to the march, using a small staff whose tools were index cards and a few dial telephones. He and his helpers miraculously mobilized estimated 250,000 people to travel to Washington, D.C. for the march. Nothing like this had ever been done before. The march was instrumental in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Rustin always had to stay behind the scenes in his work with Dr. King because he was openly gay. In the mid-1900s, it was still a criminal offense in every state to engage in homosexual behavior. He was imprisoned more than 24 times during his life for his beliefs in nonviolence, for his activism in the civil rights movement, and for being gay. He never abandoned his belief or stopped working for peace and justice. He died in 1987 at the age of 75. He was not recognized during his life for the contributions he made to Dr. King's work and to the causes he so fervently believed in. But on November 20th, 2013, President Obama posthumously awarded him the highest civilian award, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
This is a message that Bayard Rustin often gave. We call for a nonviolent uprising with people sitting, standing, being arrested, white and black together. Our power is in our ability to make things unworkable. The only weapon we have is our bodies, and we need to tuck in places so wheels don't turn.
Diane Nash was born in 1938 in Chicago and was raised in the Catholic faith. Her parents shielded her from much of the racial discrimination of the time. She competed in beauty pageants in Chicago and through the experience gained the poise and confidence which would later make her a leader in the civil rights movement. She went to college at Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, where she was exposed to the ugliness of Jim Crow laws for the first time in her life. While at Fisk, she attended nonviolent civil disobedience workshops and was drawn into the civil rights movement. She soon became a leader of the Nashville sit-ins. In 1960, she helped to found the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Over the years, Nash was arrested and sent to jail dozens of times, and she was regularly refused bail, using the jail, no bail tactic that many civil rights activists adhered to in their fight and equal rights. In 1961, Nash became deeply involved in the Freedom Rides, designed to challenge segregation of interstate bus routes and facilities. After a bus was firebombed and several riders were injured in attacks by mobs in Birmingham, Alabama, the Freedom Rides were suspended by the national organizers. Diane Nash, however, urged students from Fisk and elsewhere to continue the rides. When she and an older Freedom Ride organizer tried to talk her out of continuing because it was too dangerous, she responded that they would keep riding the buses and that she and all the young people had signed their wills, meaning they were prepared to die for the cause of racial equality. The marchers were beaten and tear-gassed by law enforcement officials, but eventually they succeeded and the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which authorized the federal government to oversee and enforce the constitutional right to vote, was passed. During and shortly after the civil rights movement, Nash did not receive as much recognition for her role as her male counterparts did. In more recent years, her contributions have been recognized. She has received the Distinguished American Award from the John F. Kennedy Library and Foundation, the LBG Award for Leadership in Civil Rights, and from the Lyndon Baines Johnson Library and Museum, and the Freedom Award from the National Civil Rights Museum.
She wrote, "It was clear to me that if we allowed the Freedom Ride to stop at that point, just after so much violence had been inflicted, the message would have been sent that all you have to do to stop a nonviolent campaign is inflict massive violence. Violence needs to be addressed. I think the civil rights movement has demonstrated how to resolve conflicts. I think it's crazy when two countries have problems with each other and one says, let's bomb them, kill them, go fight. If we have a problem with another country, I would like to see consideration instead of an automatic tendency to go to war. Let's hear their side, consider our side, and look at what is logical and responsible. Let's look at what serves the best interests of the people and see if we can negotiate solutions, more sane solutions. There is a source of power in each of us that we don't realize until we take responsibility. Now I have a real live local hero. I'm so delighted to introduce Julie Cunningham, who many of you probably know and many of you might not know, but she is making change right here in Brattleboro. Julie was raised in Washington, D.C. She came here 27 years ago, and things haven't been the same since. She has a master's in social work, but she has defined and worked that in exceptional ways, and she will be talking about her work, so I won't do that. But I would also like to mention that she and her husband have 4 children, which themselves express what we talk about when we talk about a beloved community of children. And she's, as importantly, been the founder and the director of Families First, and she is going to talk about it, so I won't do that. But she's someone who is doing the kind of change we're all singing about, and I can't be more happy to introduce you to her.
Thank you, Lisa. Very nice welcome, and thank you, Bert, and the Interfaith community. A little fun fact, I was actually kind of sort of at the Dr. King I Have a Dream speech. My mother was 6 months pregnant with me. And my father did not want her to go because there were a lot of insidious rumors that there were going to be riots and violence. And what she found was actually just the opposite. My brother, who was 2 at the time, was in a stroller, and everyone came up and hugged him and hugged her and patted her belly. So I hope I got infused with the love of that day and that amazing speech. It's an honor to be here with you all today, and it's been an honor to be at these celebrations of Dr. King that the Interfaith community has put on over the last 10 years. Lisa and I were just trying to count that up the other day. And we need this day because we need to be refueled by the words and the teachings of Dr. King. It's a challenging and depressing time to be a United States citizen. Our first African-American president is continually insulted with thinly veiled racist language. In last week's debate, Ted Cruz called President Obama a child, which he most likely picked up from Chris Christie, who has called him that multiple times, often adding petulant. The definition of petulant is peevish, bad-tempered, cross, sulky, and crotchety, none of which I think in any stretch of the imagination resembles Barack Obama. But it's not a stretch to understand how the racist put-down language of uppity boy has been recodified as petulant child. This, along with the overtly racist campaigning against Muslims and Mexicans, has re-exposed the deep divisions in our nation in regards to white privilege, fear of brown and black people, and disdain for our diversity. I recently became a grandmother. Sang Bay was born on November 23rd, and Quentin Elijah joined us on December 23rd. Sang Bay is named after the African known as Joseph Cinque, who after the revolt of the Amistad successfully sued for his freedom and returned to Sierra Leone in 1842. His African name was Sang Bay Pie. Quentin means fifth, and Elijah was a Hebrew prophet from the 9th century, meaning perhaps that Quentin is the fifth prophet. These are quite the big names these infants will live into. But a greater concern in my family is that both of these babies will eventually grow into being black teenagers and young men in a society that almost as a whole will view them as a threat. The fact that there is no justice for Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old playing outside with a toy gun and shot down by a police officer, should create national outrage and a national conversation of how we will collectively right this wrong. Instead, it is muted in a 24-hour news cycle, and we're off to the next tragedy without remedy or redemption. After Tamir, there was Rumaine Brisbane, Tony Robinson, Walter Scott, and others, and the uncovering of the shooting of Laquan McDonald in Chicago. There is more. From the lead poisoning of primarily African-American children in Flint, Michigan, to the 38 reported anti-Muslim attacks in the last 2 months of 2015, we have to wonder what gets brought to our attention and when and why. When Muslim girls are harassed for wearing a hijab and mosques have been defaced and targeted by arsonists, you'd have to search deep into the internet to know that this was actually happening. Residents in Flint who said that the water was a brownish color and tasted funny were ignored repeatedly. It was only when Dr. Mona Hana Ataisha, who I believe is a Muslim American, consistently advocated and exposed the blood levels of children under the age of 5 that finally got the media attention it deserved. The president declared a state of emergency in Flint yesterday, but the negative effects of the lead poisoning in these children are lifelong, especially if they are not ameliorated by early education, special education, and intensive social support services. Will we have the political will to do this? It's hard not to be defeatist, to become hopeless, to lose our sense of agency that we can do something to help make our world a better place. So this brings us back to the necessity of refueling. Dr. King came by the concept of beloved community by the writings of the philosopher Josiah Royce. His ideas stem from seeing humanity as individuals who are part of a greater organism, which was community. Since individual and community are essentially linked, they are loyal to each other. One cannot exist without the other. Dr. King, as he did with all of his teachings, further explained and expanded on this. Remember that Dr. King had a doctorate in systemic theology. The beloved community is not a lofty picture of the peaceful kingdom where lambs and lions are friends and the sun is always shining. Dr. King understood that working towards nonviolent social change was hard, messy, difficult, and did not look good externally or internally for those committed to the principles. The King Center in Atlanta, Georgia, where Jay and I have been, and we highly recommend you visiting if you can, has structured Dr. King's writings into what leads us into the beloved community. What are the things that will actually get us there? It starts by defining what we are fighting and what needs to change. He begins by interlinking the triple evils, which are poverty, racism, and militarism, which are forms of violence that exist in a vicious cycle. They are interrelated, all-inclusive, and stand as barriers to our living in the beloved community. When we work to remedy one evil, we affect all evils. To work against the triple evils, you must develop a nonviolent frame of mind, as described in the 6 principles of nonviolence. So for poverty, which was defined at the King Center as unemployment, homelessness, hunger, malnutrition, illiteracy, infant mortality, and slums, Dr. King says, "There's nothing new about poverty. What is new, however, is that we now have the resources to get rid of it. The time has come for an all-out world war against poverty. The well-off and the secure have too often become indifferent and oblivious to the poverty and deprivation in their midst. Ultimately, a great nation is a compassionate nation. No individual or nation can be great if it does not have a concern for the least of these." Racism, again described by the King Center as prejudice, apartheid, ethnic conflict, anti-Semitism, sexism, colonialism, homophobia, ageism, discrimination against disabled groups, stereotypes. Dr. King says, "Racism is a philosophy based on a contempt for life. It is the arrogant assertion that one race is at the center of value, an object of devotion, before which other races must kneel in submission. It is the absurd dogma that one race is responsible for all the progress of history and alone can assure the progress of the future. Racism is total estrangement. It separates not only bodies, but minds and spirits. Inevitably, it descends to inflicting spiritual and physical homicide upon the outgroup." Militarism, defined, again, King Center, war, imperialism, domestic violence, rape, terrorism, human trafficking, media violence, drugs, child abuse, violent crime. And Dr. King, all of these quotes are from Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. Dr. King says, "A true revolution of values will lay hands on the world order and say of war, this way of settling difference is not just. This way of burning human beings with napalm, of filling our nation's homes with orphans and widows, of injecting poisonous drugs of hate into the veins of people normally humane, of sending men home from dark and bloody battlefields physically handicapped, psychologically deranged, cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching its spiritual death." So how do we bend ourselves towards justice? The fundamental tenets of Dr. King's philosophy of nonviolence were described in his first book, Stride Towards Freedom. The 6 principles include: Principle 1, nonviolence is a way of life for courageous people. It is active, nonviolent resistance to evil. It is aggressive spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Principle 2, nonviolence seeks to win friendship and understanding. The end result of nonviolence is redemption and reconciliation. The purpose of nonviolence is the creation of the beloved community. Principle 3, nonviolence seeks to defeat injustice, not people. Nonviolence recognizes that evil doers are also victims and are not evil people. The nonviolent resistor seeks to defeat evil, not people. Principle 4, nonviolence holds that suffering can educate and transform. Nonviolence accepts suffering without retaliation. Unearned suffering is redemptive and has tremendous educational and transformational possibilities. Principle 5, nonviolence chooses love instead of hate. Nonviolence resists violence of the spirit as well as the body. Nonviolent love is spontaneous, unmotivated, unselfish, and creative. Principle 6, nonviolence believes that the universe is on the side of justice. The nonviolent resistor has deep faith that justice will eventually win. Nonviolence believes that God is a God of justice. In 1956, Dr. King said this when the U.S. Supreme Court desegregated the seats in Montgomery, Georgia. "The end is reconciliation, the end is redemption, the end is the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opponents into friends. It is this type of understanding goodwill that will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age. It is this love which will bring about miracles in the hearts of men. The love that will fuel this beloved community will be agape love. Dr. King talked about the different types of love, distinguishing romantic love, or the love you might feel for a friend, from agape, which he defined as understanding, redeeming, unmotivated, groundless, and creative, the love of God operating in the human heart. He said that agape does not discriminate between worthy and unworthy people. It begins by loving others for their sakes and makes no distinction between a friend and enemy. It is directed towards both. Agape is love seeking to preserve and create community. For the past 17 years, I've been the executive director of Families First. We serve children and adults with disabilities like autism, Down syndrome, and cerebral palsy. I'm biased, but I think we have a cool little thing going. We strive for optimal community participation and inclusion, which means linking our folks with the same opportunities that their non-disabled peers have. That means finding jobs that are meaningful, that pay at least the minimum wage, to have community activities that are of interest to that person and not for the sake of the convenience of others, and to have friends and casual acquaintances beyond paid caregivers. This mission is shared by many others throughout our state. We're lucky to be an agency in Vermont, which has been a forerunner in the disability rights movement. The Brandon Training School was closed in 1996 by committed advocates that knew that someone should not be institutionalized just because of a disability. We were the second state to close our institution. New Hampshire beat us by a few months. But only 14 states have closed their training schools. The majority of states still have sheltered workshops where people with disabilities are often given makeshift jobs and are given little to no compensation for their work. The Minnesota Star Tribune recently ran a series of the problem their state is having delivering person-centered services for people with disabilities. People are moved and segregated into group homes far away from their families and friends, forced to have roommates or housemates whom they may have nothing in common with, and spend their days at a sheltered workshop. When the reporters looked to a state with a progressive system of care, they came to Vermont. And what we've learned here is that when people with disabilities are fully integrated into their communities, everyone wins. We all win. The people I serve are your workmates, neighbors, and the person that usually gives you a friendly hello at the co-op. Everyone has something to give. Everyone has something to receive. We are all enriched from everyone being fully at our community's table. In this example of Vermont taking people with disabilities out of exile, we have an example of the beloved community. Dr. King said, "I have fought too long against segregated public accommodations to end up segregating my moral compass." In the wonderfully titled essay, An Experiment in Love, that Dr. King wrote in 1958, he says, "In the final analysis, agape means a recognition of the fact that all life is interrelated. All humanity is involved in a single process, and all men are brothers." And I would add that we are all each other's brothers and sisters, including civil rivalry and some awful fighting amongst ourselves. To go back for a moment to Josiah Royce, I found something he wrote extremely helpful for the here and now. To paraphrase, he said that when we cannot find the beloved community, then we can take the steps to begin to create it. He said we can act as to hasten its coming. We can act as to hasten its coming. Dr. King believed that oppressed people and people of goodwill have a lot of impact in getting us towards the beloved community. While he spoke often about the U.S. economic system that places the wants of a few over the basic needs of the many, and the need for a radical shift in our nation's values, he also did believe that every individual could do things that could be transformative. The 6 steps for nonviolent social change are based on Dr. King's nonviolent campaigns and teachings that emphasize love in action. Dr. King's philosophy of nonviolence, as reviewed in the 6 principles of nonviolence, guide these steps for us in the social and interpersonal change process. The first is information gathering. To understand and articulate an issue, problem, or injustice facing a person, community, or institution, you must do the research. You must investigate and gather all vital information from all sides of the argument or issue so as to increase your understanding of the problem. You must become an expert on your opponent's position. 2, education. It is essential to inform others, including your opposition, about your issue. This minimizes misunderstanding and gains you support and sympathy. 3, personal commitment. Daily check and affirm your faith in the philosophy and methods of nonviolence. Eliminate hidden motives and prepare yourself to accept suffering, if necessary, in your work for justice. 4, discussion, negotiation. Using grace, humor, and intelligence, confront the other party with a list of injustices and a plan for addressing and resolving these injustices. Look for what is positive in every action and statement the opposition makes. Do not seek to humiliate the opponent, but call forth the good in the opponent. 5, direct action. There are actions taken when the opponent is unwilling to enter into or remain in discussion, negotiation. These actions impose a creative tension into the conflict, supplying moral pressure on your opponent to work with you in resolving the injustice. 6, reconciliation. Nonviolence seeks friendship and understanding with the opponent. Nonviolence does not seek to defeat the opponent. Nonviolence is directed against evil systems, forces, oppressive policies, unjust acts, but not against persons. Through reasoned compromise, both sides resolve the injustice with a plan of action. Each act of reconciliation is one step closer to the beloved community. And these, the King Center based all these from the letter from Birmingham Jail. There is no one person that I have found more inspirational, more timely, and more urgently important than Dr. King. He continues to teach us. He has handed us the moral compass in which to navigate our communities and our lives. And so I'd like to conclude with my 3 favorite quotes from Dr. King. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And finally, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. The choir could come forward. We're going to do a piece that was made famous by Miriam Makeba. It mixes a South African anti-apartheid anthem, Tula Sizwe, with Bob Dylan's classic, I Shall Be Released. Tula Sizwe expresses this idea. And imagine, again, this is in South Africa during the apartheid years. Nation, do not cry. Jehovah will protect us.
Shine.
Everybody needs protection. They say that everyone must fall. Yet I swear I see my reflection somewhere so high above this wall. I see my light come shining. Join in if you know it. From the west down to the east. Any day now, anyway now, I shall be released. Now yonder stands a man in this lonely crowd, a man who swears he's not to blame. All day long I hear him shout so loud, crying out that he was framed. I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, anyway now, I shall be
Friends, with the lighting of this candle, we would just like to invite us to sit for just a few moments in silence, to think peace, to wear it as a garment here as we sit together here in this sacred space. So let us now be together in a moment of silence, in a moment of peace. Thank you. And in this sound of silence, may we all be inspired and motivated.
Of course, our greatest offering is a commitment to work for social justice and racial justice in our time. We've chosen again this year to ask for donations to two organizations, both tax-deductible 501c3s in our community. One is the Root Social Justice Center, which provides an accessible place for people to meet, and also is the home base for 4 amazing social activists in our community. They, in fact, are right now holding a session on mass incarceration, which is why many of them aren't here tonight. We had hoped to change so that we wouldn't conflict, and we were both so cooperative. We both changed to Sunday. So we'll try to work it out maybe next year. Just saying, that's why Sheila is not here, as many of the others. Oh well, the fight for social justice, right? And the other organization, of course, is the Vermont Partnership for Fairness and Diversity. And one of the major initiatives among the many small initiatives are their work providing an annual conference at which state leaders and social service leaders, the leaders of our state, come together and talk about how to make this state the most diverse and representative in the nation, even though it's white. The whitest state in the nation, and Curtis does an amazing job of this. So they're very well worth supporting. You could choose, if one of them is your favorite and you wanted to write a check directly to them, that's fine. Otherwise, we will divide the collection evenly. If you're writing a check and you'd like to have it be divided, you could just write it to Centre Church and put MLK in the memo line, and we'll be sending that off this week. So thank you so much for your generosity, and by all means for being here tonight. I know it's torture. I don't know if you can smell the garlic bread calling us down there, but for me right now, it's all I can do to be here. So, all right, here we go. Thank you.
With heavy hearts, we turn to you. Dreams deferred, lives taken, more futures robbed, more deaths that led to injury, violence and unrest, realizations of divisions and systems of injustice, more struggle and confrontation and despair.
Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.
This is a time where hands in the air not only mean surrender, but solidarity. As differences seek to rule the day, we search for another path, a new way to live in community.
Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.
Change our hearts and transform them from places that see otherness to ones that honor your image in each person.
Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.
Guide us to use our voices to name the racism and the prejudice still thriving in our midst, striving for systems of accountability that maintain justice for all people.
Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.
Strengthen us for the difficult but beautiful work of dismantling racism and building a community where all are welcomed and honored.
Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.
Stir our hearts, free our minds, guide us to follow your way. Help us to push aside our complacency to make room for your Spirit, calling us forward from this place.
Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.
Make us instruments of your peace here now, this year, right where we live and work.
Friends, we prepare to close now with this little light of mine. Hopefully you all got a candle. We will have folks light candles from this peace candle right here and come up the aisle. Those at the inside of the aisle, please tip the unlit candle into the flame to avoid dripping wax, and then pass the flame down the aisle until everyone's candle is lit. And I believe we're doing this as we sing. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So, this little light of mine. Here we go.
Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
meal together. We hope you'd like to join us. Of course, if you can't, that's fine, but if this is the easiest way down, once your candles are put out, we have garlic bread and spaghetti and all those good things, and most importantly, we have you, and we can be here together. Thank you so much. Carry the light forward into the world. See you next year.
Walking